Hello, everyone. Good to see you on this wonderful, sunny Friday, the end of a very long week, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we're going to be reacting to the Jodi Hildebrandt getting sentenced. And that's something that was highly requested by all of you after we discussed Ruby Frankie. So thank you so much for joining us. Hi, Cajun. Hi, Nermin. Madam H, Let's Dance. Thank you so much for all of you being here. Mia Louise. It's only morning in Australia. Not great that we're already halfway and a day behind you. So yes, you guys, we want to continue reacting to these precedents being set on the public record, and shout out to Growing in Scientology that published a video discussing a lot of what we've been speaking about on this channel since we started, which has always been the same thing. Kids being exposed to audits is unthinkable. It's fully inconceivable that with a straight face, America's still sitting here purporting that it has no clue and that we do live in a country of laws. But, there's just a bunch of platitudes about how no one's above the law, you guys. Really, we have a system here so that nobody becomes above the law. And then it's kind of actually hard to find the semblance of where the law is being applied half the time, especially when it comes to this child issue. But we did find a literal example of the law being applied, you guys. So let's show people in America how the law can be applied. And let's show people that have been purporting that you can commit felonies on kids and call it a religious thing. And all of a sudden, the name of whatever in the hell you're doing literally prevents you from getting criminally indicted or seeing a shred of justice. Because, again, with what type of straight face can these United States purport that it has a legal system that cannot get its pitches together? Because that's what about it's giving right about now. So the televised trial of Jodi Hildebrandt, and thank God that we do have it televised, you guys, because again, thanks to, shout out to Utah court that did allow itself to be televised so we could see how courts react to evidence presented in things that were presented in this trial. So Ms. Hildebrandt, a self-proclaimed therapist and religious figure, shines a glaring spotlight on the deaths and parallel child abuse and torture depravities existing within Scientology adult ranks, a darkness seemingly impenetrable to reason or conscience. As her despicable actions unfold before our eyes, we are left to grapple with the horrifying reality of how a cult figure can recruit like-minded degenerates that will be willing to systemically prey upon the innocence and vulnerableness found in underage kids who cannot consent to what they're being exposed to whatsoever. With an audacious sense of entitlement, both Hildebrandt and most of our Scientology parents exploited their positions of authority to inflict irreparable harm upon the minds and souls of all children entrusted to their care. In the case of Scientology, exponentially bigger. Duh. In their hands, our innocence as underage kids became a target. Vulnerability, a weapon to be wielded with callous indifference. The scars they have left behind are not merely physical, but psychological, etched into the very fabric of us, the children who are still haunted long after the physical wounds have said to have healed. Yet still, as repugnant as Hildebrandt's actions may be, they pale in comparison to the complicity and silence of those within Scientology's inner circle of parents who were effectively donors of their own underage kids to the so-called executives, the actual child traffickers in the transaction. Parents who willingly sacrifice their children upon the altar of convicted felon L. Ron Hubbard's indoctrination. Executives who turned a blind eye and actively conspired in covering up, including but not limited to self-admitted felonies and unthinkable abuse that has been perpetrated at an industrial-sized scale on literal underage kids in the name of their precious institution. All made up of dangerous AF delusion. These are the true architects of this tragedy, all named above. Their hands are stained with the blood of innocence, their souls tarnished by their unforgivable collective betrayal, aka their criminal conspiracy. In the warped reality of Scientology's blind allegiance reigns. It reigns supreme. And children are merely pawns in a perverse game of manipulation and control, of which they are told they are willing members. In what literal world? While Jodi Hildebrandt may face the consequences of her crimes, all of those who have enabled our reign of terror within Scientology's hotels and commercial buildings remained untouched by justice, shielded by the cult's veil of secrecy and intimidation. Imagine running a child abuse operation that is 100x more hardcore than anything else that has been discussed on the public record, and the FBI is intimidated by them. LOL. But let there be no mistake, there is no sanctuary from accountability. No refuge from the wrath of actual justice, not the sham that legalized getting kids abused legally in the first place. Right, Department of Justice, or wrong? Right, IRS Commissioner, or wrong? The veil of immunity that Scientology has woven around its members is tattered and torn, revealing the festering rot of their moral bankruptcy for all of you to see. Does anyone need glasses? Does anyone need LASIK? Are there any other physical impediments that we are not aware of preventing the administration of justice as called for in the literal law? It would be great if someone could please finally advise on that matter once and for MF all, TBH. It is time to unleash the full force of asking what in the literal hell is going on to all the Scientology parents and executives, plus all of their actual enablers. They didn't do this alone. They haven't done this alone. They've been enabled. We demand answers. We demand action. We demand justice for the countless lives shattered by their callous disregard for basic human decency of underage kids. No MF less. To Scientology parents and executives, we issue a stern warning. Your complicity will no longer be tolerated. Your silence is deafening, and the cries of all the innocent kids y'all sadistically tortured and abused, all full knowing, have forsaken an echo through the halls of literal justice. The world is watching Scientology. Your days of operating and being state sanctioned to operate with full impunity are numbered AF. We will not rest until every last shred of child ensnared in your web of lies, in your unconscionable, disgusting contracts that you made us so-called sign underage. They will be liberated from your insidious, corrupt, and illegal as fuck grasp. The time for a reckoning is at hand. Let the trial of Jodi Hildebrandt serve as a clarion call for justice, a reckoning long overdue, but fully inevitable in its arrival. No one is above the law. Pitch it as something better than an empty AF platitude. America. Show us actions, because we don't give a fuck about all the could've, should've, would've's attitudes that have plagued our existence in this country. So here it is, you guys. Thank you for holding space for, again, all of these conversations that we're having to have at the expense of a number of people playing dumb and dumber as their only mode, as if that's really going to do anything. So with that same level, let's show Dumb and Dumber what it means to face a shred of accountability. As if anything this woman is going to face as a result of inflicting the type of torture she gave the liberty to fully administer while she wasn't being looked at, will do anything for those kids. As if after they have their way with you, you could be returned to any type of normal state. As if.
Court recalls the matter of State of Utah versus Hildebrandt, case 231501763. Counsel are present. Ms. Hildebrandt is present. Counsel, there is a pre-sentence investigation report. I have read it. Everyone has seen and reviewed that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Again, the sentence was stipulated at the time of the plea agreement. What record do we need to make other than going forward with sentencing?
Your Honor, it would be repetitive. I had the same statement just with the last few paragraphs where I was differentiating between Ms. Frank and Ms. Hildebrandt.
Okay, let's talk about housekeeping matters first. What about restitution?
We've stipulated to keep that open for 8 months.
It is appropriate, Your Honor, since we don't have any evidence with respect to restitution, and that's because it is still in the process of being gathered by the county attorney's office. It's completely appropriate for the court to make no orders with respect to restitution other than to reserve all issues regarding restitution, and we have no issue with the eight-month time frame.
And the injunction that was previously issued by the court will remain in effect?
It will.
At least until that time?
It will remain in effect until further order of this court.
All right. Mr. Clark?
Thanks, Your Honor. The state of Utah respectfully requests that the court sentence Ms. Hildebrandt to consecutive prison terms for each of the 4 counts of aggravated child abuse to which she has pleaded guilty. The sentence was agreed to her in her plea agreement and is also recommended by adult probation and parole. Ms. Hildebrandt committed awful acts of child abuse. From May to August 2023, she and her business partner held 2 children, ages 9 and 11, turning 12, in a concentration camp-like setting in her house in Ivan City. The children were regularly denied food, water, beds to sleep in, and virtually all forms of entertainment.
So this question came up yesterday, you guys, as Aaron was discussing the context of me being groomed as a 12-year-old to be a so-called auditor. And yes, the pitch out there has been that we were some sort of therapist or that there was some sort of therapy-like setting. Well, we have gone to therapy. And there's nothing even remotely close to therapy. It's like it couldn't be anywhere near what was going on. In therapy, for once, your therapist does not have unlimited access to you, unlimited boundary crossing with you, cannot be sleeping with you, cannot be going to lunch with you, could not be following every single thing you do all day and all night, could not be locking you up against your will, which is false imprisonment. So the narrative has been that, oh yes, they're just like therapists, all because they call themselves counselors. And they have a book that says the modern science of mental health. So is it therapy or is it religion? Is it technology or is it theology? Is it a hotel or is it a church? Or what in the literal hell? They cannot pitch anything that makes a shred of sense, because what they're hiding is what this woman was doing to those kids, torturing them. What did they call that? Oh, yes, child abuse. Aggravated child abuse typically refers to instances where multiple forms or incidents of abuse occur over a period of time, often involving different perpetrators or settings. This can include physical abuse, emotional abuse, SA, neglect, or a combination thereof. The term aggregated highlights the cumulative nature of the abuse experienced by the child, which can have severe and long-lasting effects on their physical, emotional, and psychological well-being. That's what the law says it is. In what world can you hold a child falsely imprisoned in a hotel, video recording them, asking them disgusting, unthinkable, degenerate questions, of which Aaron went into? Oh yeah, if you didn't, happen to RAPE someone this lifetime, well, go tell us what was done last lifetime. And if you don't know what the word RAPE means, well, here's a little dictionary. Let's really clear it for yourself. Let's really give us examples. Let's make sure you have a full conceptual understanding. And yes, you guys, some people got audited when they were adults, and they don't give an F. They love what they do to them in there. They love it. They cannot get enough of it. They're so all about it. They are in on the role play. They consent. They're full-grown adults that don't need anyone to come and save them from choices they're making for themselves. But I'm sick and tired of the peoples of these courts to purport it's a very religious, and you did it because you had a belief. In what world does anyone give a shred of an F what Jeffrey Epstein was believing when he was helping himself to the gaggle of minors that Florida allowed him and Ghislaine to traffic all around? In what world were those beliefs? Never mind, he got all manner of sweetheart deals. Never mind that the corruption could be more obvious AF. In what world was what Ghislaine thinking when she was trafficking massages something that anyone gave a shred of an F about? Aggregated child abuse typically refers to instances where multiple forms or incidents of abuse occur over a period of time, often involving different perpetrators or settings. This can include physical abuse, check mark, emotional abuse, check mark, SA, check mark, neglect, check mark, or combination thereof. Yeah, how about all of them together times 100? The term aggregated highlights the cumulative nature of the abuse experienced by the child. In what time of our childhood were we not being abused? Because that would be very great to start understanding from the Department of Justice of these United States. When in our childhood were we not? Under what in the hell this definition says? Department of Justice. IRS commissioner that made the deal. This is called state-sanctioned abuse of minors at an industrial size scale. This is not just David's problem. As Mike Winder has spent the last 18 years spouting about, oh, if only David Miscavige, you guys. And if David Miscavige would have been brought back to his senses, then what, Mike Winder? Then literally what? What would be different? By all means, type it in your next blog post. What really would be different is that what? You and Debbie Cook would have what? Make yourself make sense. Stop spouting stupidity at the wall and hoping it sticks. Stop doing that. Because aggregated child abuse is what y'all were doing in those audits. Breaking news to y'all. I would know. I was doing it since 12. Right or wrong, Shelly Miscavige, that everyone's out there looking for her. Let's really go find her. Let's go find her and ask her. Shelly Miscavige, You were the one that approved my RPFCSW. You were the one that signed and got all the banker's boxes of the case I was forced to literally put up for you. We're talking literally two dozen of boxes, banker's boxes filled with paperwork for Shelley to review page by page, where a self-admitted PEDO was provided a minor. Right or wrong, Shelley Miscavige, is a yes or no answer. So yes, LAPD, go find her and go ask her if she knows anything about that. Because that would be great for the LAPD to start asking some questions. Now that your little leader of the LAPD really did step down yesterday with his little flowers. So it's called aggregated child abuse. And torturing kids is what in the hell is called. Calling a child an adult is what in the literal hell is called. In case for all the people playing Dumb and Dumber. In case for all the people that pay to be L. Ron Hubbard's proteges as full-grown consenting adults that y'all were. For all the Scientology parents that want to play dumb, stop playing dumb. Stop it.
They were isolated from others and were hidden when people came to visit the house.
Guess who else was isolated? Guess who else was hidden? Right, Debbie Cook? Or wrong? Were you hiding minors when people were coming around? Were you hiding the RPF children when the German reporters were doing their little documentary? Did you order an entire face of the entire hacienda to be fenced up so that no one could see in if they drove by? Did that happen? Yes or no, Debbie Cook? Next time you go collect your check, ask yourself that question. Was I hiding kids like Jodi here? Was I doing that too? Was I hiding them from authorities? Was I putting them away? Was I putting them in places where no one could get to them? Yes or no, Debbie Cook? Answer the MF question. Stop playing dumb and stop cashing checks.
They were forced to do physical tasks like carrying loaded boxes up and down stairs and doing wall sits or sitting against a wall without assistance of a chair or stool for hours at a time. They were forced to do manual labor outdoors in the extreme summer heat, often without shoes or socks.
Imagine we were forced to remove asbestos. We were forced to remove asbestos from the hacienda concrete floors because it was ridden with that disgusting, toxic. But yeah, just scrape it off, really rehabilitate yourself with this asbestos removal. So when we say it's 100x worse, it's not trying to, make it all about ourselves, you guys. Oh, yeah. It's already unthinkable that these kids whose lives were all over YouTube. Imagine this is a 2 million follower count mother that YouTube propped up. Because all manner of accounts end up getting canceled by the YouTube leadership that I'm sure has nothing to do with it all because there's no number to call, there's no one to talk to, but all of a sudden accounts are disappearing, and yet this woman's partner had an account with 2 million followers. Where disgusting punishments were being done on the kids, where people said, hey, what the hell's going on with that? Let me write it up. Let me try and call somebody. Like that punishment is not okay. Oh, it doesn't matter. YouTube let it all go to 2 million followers. Imagine that. Imagine that they're suppressing the voices of those who advocate for children, and they're amplifying disgusting women like these two here that were all about, oh, let's show everyone. No, we're doing this and this is great and I'm a great parent and let me just punish my kids and let me just abuse them in front of everyone. And everyone was watching the train wreck. And YouTube has no responsibility because you know what? The account got to how many followers before anyone did anything? YouTube leadership. How many followers did y'all expose there to the disgusting things this woman's partner was pitching in her disgusting channel? Unhinged, disgusting channel of disgusting depravities that YouTube leadership, with all the filtering and all the things that you really have to check it out to make sure you don't get. This woman was a multi-millionaire YouTube maid. Ruby Frankie. YouTube influencer of the month, of the year, of the century, right? YouTube leadership.
They were also forced to stand outside on a cement patio in the summer heat for hours and even days. They were beaten, and the 12-year-old was regularly bound hand and foot after he attempted to run away in mid-July. Both children had extensive physical injuries from.
You guys, I don't even want to get into what Angie Trent and Debbie Cook and Pilar Saldarriaga and Angie Blankenship and Richard Reese and Yvonne Kellerhouse and Sean Carino Smith and all these so-called executives would do with a runaway. You don't want to know. It's true. They would never bind us. They never put us in the literal handcuffs because that would leave marks. These people are a lot much smarter than these two idiots here in those Scientology hotels. You ended up with two people watching you full time, as you guys have already heard from Jenna, put under watch. Oh, you want to leave? Then two people are going to watch you, false imprison you, put you in two adults watching you nonstop. When I was sent to that disgusting prison camp that Debbie Cook was running for herself, sent there by Angie Trent, I ended up too because I wanted to escape. I wanted to leave. I was desperate. But how was I supposed to lose two men that were watching me 24/7 for 2 months? Until I was considered, okay, he's proven that he's not going to blow. Okay, the watch can be terminated. You had to show them before the watch would be terminated. So yes, we convinced ourselves to stay. So yes, we convinced ourselves that we were the ones with the problem. We were the disgusting ones. We were the ones that had to do whatever in the hell these disgusting degenerates were pitching. With a straight face, full of entitlement, full of confidence that they're really going to save a world. Because what? They're torturing kids with a straight face?
The abuse that required hospitalization to treat. The injuries from the binding are particularly bad. In addition to the physical abuse, the children were emotionally abused. They each believed to some degree that they deserved what was being done to them. Had the older of the two children not had the courage to run away and ask a neighbor to call the police, heaven only knows how much longer he could have survived. After being caught, Ms. Hildebrandt has shown little to no remorse for her actions. In telephone conversations that will be provided in full to the Board of Pardons and Parole, and which she knew to be recorded, she's repeatedly claimed that she is the victim and the children are the perpetrators. She's gone so far as to say,
isn't that interesting, you guys? That we're getting the same shit, different air freshener. As if Mike Rinder is not calling Miriam the one that's victimizing him. As if all we ever get from the adults in the room that allowed all of this to be is projection of what's wrong with you? Why aren't you so friendly to us? Why don't you just come in peace and everyone kumbaya? Kumbaya what? Where the hell is the accountability? Where the hell is the change? Where the hell have they shown that they've changed? Where the hell is that evidence? Where?
That the things said in this proceeding and covered by the media today will be full of lies. The combination of three factors make Ms. Hildebrandt a significant threat to the community. First, the severity of the abuse she caused to be inflicted on young children. Second, her attitude that everything she did was justified and that she is being wrongfully imprisoned.
Everything they did was justified is given. Everything we've heard from the people that have been saying that they really want to stop the abuse and let's all whistleblow together and let's really all come together to do what? Come together to do what in the hell? It's called they don't want to see consequences for their actions. It's called let's run out the statutes of limitations as far as we can, continue to gaslight and confuse everyone, tell us that all the audits were so sacred and religious, and all it took for them to abuse us is for them to believe that they were really doing something religious. Well, go check with Charles Manson's groupie murderers. If helter skelter, because they cited, oh, but you know, Charles Manson did told us helter skelter, you guys, and that's why we committed all these murders, and that's why it doesn't count, because we really thought it was, you know, our own version of saving the world, just like L. Ron Hubbard did teach Charles Manson to say. So believing this and believing that doesn't mean shit. Aggregated child abuse is a very specific situationship, and it's a felony that you guys will see carries a lot of time with it because it is egregious AF. It's one of the most disgusting things anyone could be doing to somebody. If you're an adult and you cannot help yourself and you're just going to abuse kids and pretend that they are also adults, so they are liking it, explain that to a jury. By all means, explain that to a jury.
And third, her training as a therapist and aptitude for using online resources to convince others to follow her guidance. Utah Code section.
And you see, you guys, I mean, again, it's like this woman was the so-called therapist and religion. She used both angles to lure people to her den of sadistic, disgusting child abuse. Well, this woman had a multi-million-dollar den to do so. Up in Utah, Jeffrey and Jelaine had a multi-million-dollar den to do so. Down in Palm Beach, a whole mansion. Well, David Miscavige and the rest of his little buddies had an entire hotel chain to do so worldwide. World MF wide. All across state lines, all across every last shred of state of these United States. These people have some sort of, you know, flagship appearance. Because that's all it took for the idiots on the inside to go, oh, well, this is so legal because look, it's in every state. It couldn't be more above the legality limit. I mean, in what world are we in every state? In what world are we having hotels for ourselves erected all over the literal world?
Section 76.3.401 lays out three factors the court should consider in determining whether to impose concurrent or consecutive sentences. The first is the gravity and circumstances of the offense. The second is the number of victims. And the third is the history, character, and rehabilitative need of the defendant. As agreed to in the plea agreement and as recommended by adult probation and parole, consecutive sentences are appropriate here. This is due to the severity of the abuse to the two victims and the extreme need for Ms. Hildebrandt to be rehabilitated so that she no longer will present a risk to the community.
All Scientology parents represent a risk to their own kids. As long as they're deluded themselves to think that their kids are adults, as long as they've been subjecting them to audits and ethics handlings and so-called grooming courses to make them the auditors, they are a clear and present danger, and they cannot defend what in the hell it says inside of those courses. They cannot do it. Try it. Mike Rinder cannot come up with a single shred of defense that make a shred of sense other than what? Demonizing us. Oh, here's the victim now. Oh, here comes Mike Rinder, the victim of the kids that he child trafficked. Imagine you're that pathetic to go after the same kids you trafficked. Imagine you showed no remorse. You did nothing except open and close your mouth for pay. He was playing to get paid. It's called pay to get played, to get played and paid and play. And, oh, I'm a consultant, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a 100 million things, right? And nothing is solved. And you've been on the case, really helping behind the scenes, and nothing has changed until when? When is the change going to come? If you won't even acknowledge the severity of how disgusting it is. What Scientology actually is, Mike Rinder, in case you don't know, Scientology is sessions. Scientology is audits, you dumb fool. In what world do you not know that? You were L. Ron Hubbard's publicist. You knew who your client was. You pitched them as an amazing person that really figured out a lot of stuff. As if you didn't go get Miriam Francis' mom to help you build a museum for your daddy figure of choice. You were 18 already. Repeat, you were 18, we were 12. Big difference right there. You were already a grown man. You could have gone to the army. You could have signed up to go to the Navy. You could have signed up to go to the CIA. Wherever in the hell you ended up, you did that as an 18-year-old. And you did not afford that same level of grace to all underage kids. You and Debbie Cook and everyone else in your disgusting hotel scam went around recruiting worldwide. Imagine that.
The state respectfully requests that she be sentenced to 4 consecutive terms.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Mr. Terry?
Thank you, Your Honor. I will be brief. As is always the case in cases that come before courts, there are 2 sides to every case. And even in a case like this, that remains the case. There are many, many allegations regarding these 2 individuals, Ms. Frankie and my client, Ms. Hildebrandt. The only facts in this case that are adjudicated facts are those set forth in the plea agreement that she entered into freely and knowingly and voluntarily. Those facts, those adjudicated facts, are significant. They certainly provide a basis for the pleas and provide a basis for the stipulated sentence in this case. My experience with Ms. Hildebrandt is that she is not the person that she has been portrayed to be. But having said that, she has accepted responsibility in this case. She has entered into this plea agreement with a stipulated sentence of 4 consecutive sentences. She did that at the time she entered into the plea agreement, knowing that that would be the court's order. She is before the court today, knowing that that will be the court's order, and she fully accepts that. She accepts responsibility and she accepts the consequences for her conduct. and we will submit it to the court on the stipulated agreement.
Mr. Terry, you suggested that there are two sides to every case. I generally agree with you. Ms. Hildebrandt didn't make a statement to AP&P in the course of the pre-sentence investigation report.
Correct.
Why did she not make a statement?
She wanted to reserve her right to make a statement before the court today, and she has a brief statement that she wants to read, Your Honor.
Okay.
And
all right. Ms. Hildebrandt? Go ahead.
I sincerely love these children. I desire for them to heal physically and emotionally. One of the reasons I did not go to trial is that I did not want them to emotionally relive the experience which would have been detrimental to them. My hope and prayer is that they will heal and move forward to have beautiful lives. I am willing to submit to what the state feels would be an appropriate amount of time served to make retribution as an outcome.
in answer to your question, Your Honor, I knew that whatever she might say to the author of the pre-sentence report would probably sound hollow and self-serving, and perhaps it does today. But I know that my client, in the statement that she makes to the court today, that statement is absolutely sincere.
Does Ms. Hildebrandt recognize that it's her behavior that caused the harm to the children that she's referred to in her statement?
Your Honor, she recognizes that she was, along with Miss Frankie, that she made decisions with respect to the discipline of those children that were wrong.
Along with Miss Frankie, made decisions on the discipline to those children. So that's what it means to not be confused. That's what it means to talk like an adult and not have to support the delusions of all the adults that were in on trafficking us, that don't want to wake up and smell the coffee for themselves, because apparently that would be too inconvenient, way too inconvenient of a truth to have to swallow for themselves. And all we get is this exact behavior from this woman. Oh, I really hope that, everyone can get along and be great and this and that.
That caused harm to those children. She fully recognizes that and accepts responsibility for that.
All right.
And it was her and Ruby working together. She was the so-called therapist. She was the so-called religious person that was really giving her a lot of ideas. So for all the parents in Scientology that really want to go claim right now, oh, well, the people at the hotel did really tell me that I could lock up my child for 3 days to make him write overs and withholds because he was playing with Barbie dolls. And that was a great idea to do. That is not going to help you. For all the Scientology parents that go, well, I did get told if I check my daughter on the essay that she just received, then she's going to have a great time and float a needle. Who cares? Who's paying for the torture? Who is full knowing what the sessions were all about? All are Scientology parents. Why? Because Scientology, just like this disgusting idiot here, told them that they were so-called religious influencers coupled with therapy. Well, imagine how well it turns out when you have a disgusting monster such as this woman ensnaring further a mother that was already completely unhinged and, really did see exactly what she needed to hear next time she ran into this woman, because she was already all about abusing her own kids, Ruby Frankie. She was already being given a platform by YouTube, no other, of 2 million followers. while all our channels continue to be dinged and disappearing, and by that same leadership that allowed a monster to become a multi-millionaire. And this other predator, would she have really been that into preying on those kids if Ruby Frankie had no money? Think about that. Would this so-called very religious woman that also was a very well-intentioned therapist have also even lifted a finger if Ruby Frankie was destitute? Hard to believe she would, because that's how it went in the hotel as well. These people only preyed on the people that they could get something out of. They didn't go for people that were going to be an investment for them. It only worked if they were getting something out of it, in the case of the Scientology hotels and commercial buildings.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Hildebrandt, this circumstance is tragic. It's largely, of course, of your making. By any measure, your conduct in this case was disastrous for these children. Adults are supposed to protect children. Adults with specialized training in particular are supposed to protect children. You didn't do that in this case. In this case, you terrorized children, and the results have been tragic.
So, again, imagine that that's what the Scientology parents purported to have: specialized training to be better than any other human in the whole wide world. With a straight face, that's what any Scientology parent will tell you they intended, as they normalized for themselves inside of their hotels, to ensnare minors at an industrial size scale. Ensnare them in their con, ensnare them in their adult only at best game. But you know what? Nothing was ever enough for these people. It's always more and more and more. All they needed to have done is 21 and up, or you are not getting inside the hotel. They all knew what was going to happen inside the hotel. No one can claim they were not told. No one. Not a single Scientologist can claim, I had no idea what the audits were about. I had no idea what the courses were teaching. If anybody would have just told me what the courses were teaching, then I really would have what? All adults were doing the courses. All adults were paying for us to get exposed to the courses and the audits and the ethics and the billion-year contract and the RPF with pedos. Terrorizing children is not legal. Breaking AF News, LA Times. Breaking AF News, idiotic Tampa Bay Times. Terrorizing children. You just heard this judge say it. Defer to him on that statement. Don't think that the one that has no education, the one has a 7th grade education, literally having to cite this judge telling this woman that, yes, terrorizing children, breaking news, when you're purporting to be the one that's a therapist, the ones that really wants to, religiously guide somebody, and then all of a sudden the kids are being falsely imprisoned, which is a felony. The kids are being exposed to unthinkable punishments, which are just indefensible, just completely defy common sense, as if we're not asking for anything else. We're asking for common sense to be applied. Is that too much to ask, America? Is that too much to literally ask? a shred of common sense could be applied in the situation. Common sense that's literally already in your books. It says it's a crime to false imprison people, to keep them in disgusting rooms, holding up against their will is kidnapping. Imagine kidnapping is a full-blown felony. And nobody gives an F because it's happening to kids who, if they do escape, Scientology has so many mechanisms in place that they'll never see a neighbor. They'll never go to a police station. They will never do what these kids did because they were not groomed to not get helped the way we were groomed. So terrorizing kids, and there's not a shred of adult facing not even an iota of consequence or accountability or nothing. Nothing. This is all state-sanctioned child abuse and disgusting, depraved hotels happening under the watch of the FBI, happening under the watch of the LAPD, happening under the watch of the literal Department of Justice, of every three-letter agency that exists in this country to really purport that we're a nation of laws, of lawlessness, is what the hell this is giving right about now. Utter, disgusting, unhinged lawlessness. And you know why we know it's lawlessness, you guys? Because you see this very measured judge here doing a job that's very, very hard, giving her the facts, because that's what it means when you're going and sitting in front of a literal judge. You're facing the literal music. Your delusions are no one else's problem anymore. Much less the children that you were putting those delusions on. It's the children who are made to pay the price. Breaking news, in case no one thought about that ever. Yes, it's the kids who are stuck with the bill. In what world are kids stuck with a bill for being terrorized while the people who are terrorizing them are telling them it's all their fault why they're getting terrorized in the first place? Imagine.
It's what happened to these children and your philosophy in dealing with them, frankly, seems detached from reality or any objective standard of decency or even common sense. And the court finds that it is appropriate that you serve a prison sentence. The court finds under the statute, Utah Code 76-3-401, that given the gravity and circumstances of the offenses, the number of victims, and the history and character and needs of the defendant, that consecutive sentences are appropriate. The court imposes 4 1 to 15-year sentences to be, again, served consecutively for each of the 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. The last thing I do need to tell you is that you only have 30 days to file or perfect an appeal of any error of the court by filing a written notice of appeal with the clerk of the court. If you don't do that, you will lose your right to appeal. That has to be filed in writing, and again, within 30 days. You also have the right to the assistance of an attorney and to have an attorney appointed if you cannot afford to hire your own. Thank you. We're in recess.
Thank you.
So there you go, guys. That is an actual session where the laws were consulted. Oh, what does it say here? Oh, okay. So how long is it going to take for anyone to grab the literal law that's already there, that's not been anywhere else, and really start reconciling the receipts that do not match whatsoever? The receipts that are being left to children to get stuck with that bill because their parents want to go be infantile, because their parents want to pretend that they are a kid in an adult body. It's indefensible. That's what it's called. Indefensible. Info dump truck. Serge, thanks so much for covering this. It's great to connect the issues and get them more recognition as a worldwide emergency. Thank you, Info dump truck. Yes, that's, I mean, in our case, it's literally, we don't have anywhere else to turn. We've been told that everything that happened to us was 1000% legal and it's exactly how it was supposed to be, and nothing was done wrong, and everybody did great, and everybody really did try to save a world. But it is a worldwide emergency, and it will require adults to have to think harder how to solve. Adults have the wherewithal to solve very complex issues. Kids do not. So we are begging on our knees for the adults in this country to actually do the heavy lifting for once in their lives, because we haven't seen the example of the heavy lifting being done by adults. You guys, there's literally no shred of example that kids inside Scientology can really go and count on. Oh, really? That adult really stood out for us in a really great way. All kids are being abused in the same exact way as we were when we were kids. Everything you heard from Jenna is still being done. Everything you read from Lise Ferris is still being done. Everything you heard from Nora is still being done. Everything that happened to Laura is still being done. Dylan Gill, still being done. Everything is the same inside of those disgusting hotels. Did anyone not get the memo that no one can have a shred of critical thinking skill for themselves inside of the hotel? That is simply not a place where you can put a child. So yes, we're sounding the alarm as much as we possibly can by contextualizing what's on the literal public record. You know, these court proceedings that are supposed to send a message to any other child abusive parent out there. I mean, this is not just the Scientology parents, the only ones that are into sick, depraved, sadistic abuse of minors with a straight face. And we know so many of you in our community already experienced that for yourselves. Whatever the branding was on the wall, whatever they called it, who literally cares? As we always say, it's the same shit, different air freshener. That's all that ever changes. And then we're all supposed to really see a lot of big differences of this and that. And it's all just the same version of that shit. Question: what is the difference between Johnstown, Waco, Ruby, where our government has no problem sticking their nose in? How about the FLDS? Could it be COS money paying them off? I mean, look, you guys, if anything, you have to give it up to these people that they're always in crisis management mode. So they're always trying to think 10 steps ahead, even if their way of thinking couldn't be more compromised AF, because it's just all smeared in the shit of literal corruption, which is where they roll around in. So all of the things that you mentioned here before, I mean, Johnstown was a horrific incident. And again, it's like the government didn't protect the kids of all of those extremists that decided to follow their cult leader. It's called, you have to protect the kids that are in the hands of people that are doing atrocious things to them. And if you don't know what it is that they're doing, then go and find out what in the hell they're doing, because believe you me, it has a name. So with all of these things, and then the FLDS, I mean, finally the government did say, oh my God, this man is marrying a lot of underage girls. Maybe it's not a good idea. And then they started investigating. And, you know, in all of these cases, we've needed a police force that actually did the policing for themselves. They started the investigation based on the things that they had skin in the game of. Even the Jeffrey Epstein victims, you guys, the Palm Beach police did a hell of a lot more than the Clearwater Police Department has ever done in their entire existence. So imagine that, yes, if you have completely kneecapped all police departments with their OSA wrench, they've literally grabbed a wrench and destroyed, blown up the knees of all these stupid ass 3-letter agencies that are, oh yeah, let's really go through the bureaucracy, you guys. Let's really like figure it out for the next 10 years. How many years? How many more victims? How many more children being audited and being disgustedly, sadistically abused? That blood is on the FBI on the daily. This is an across the states operation. This isn't just here in Utah, we found a person doing this, you guys. I mean, and you'll see as we continue to cover, other aspects of this, these prosecutors were talking about how, this is the most egregious case we've ever seen of something like this. And you go, damn, that's how far behind we are. Damn. Imagine what this is being done at an industrial size scale and nobody gives an F. So the FBI gave into the Sierra fair game tactics, and why? I mean, I don't know. We posed that question to the FBI to answer, because they do seem to be extremely intimidated. Imagine this is an agency that knows what they got out as evidence last time they did take it upon themselves to raid, because they were very pressed that some boxes were touched. So imagine that the FBI has no reason to not have done nothing, because we have it on the public record that Mike Rinder went and told them everything he knows, even at the expense of him incriminating himself. Although right about now, it sounds not that plausible, Mike Rinder, because these women caught a plea deal when actual full-blown self-incrimination was put on the record. So your relationship with the FBI must be so cozy that you discuss in detail how you were, all about getting underage kids to be doing audits on adults, and all about monetizing that, and all about finding out felonies, and all about laundering it, and all about floating it, and all about, moving all manner of money amount around the world. And then the FBI was like, okay, no, we forgive you for all of that. Thank you for telling us. Let's just make sure that someone recently comes out, because, otherwise, how are we ever going to do anything at the FBI? We don't know. I mean, you are an insider, but I guess it's all alleged because, oh no, we did have all your materials that you did give us, but no one at the FBI can understand what in the hell you're talking about. So you know what? Never mind. Let's just hope that all the kids have better luck next lifetime. Check with us next lifetime and we'll tell you. Can the third generation kids file a class action lawsuit? Thank you, Walker. Well, I am third generation. I mean, my whole thing, you guys, has been that we need criminal investigations into everything they did to us as kids, into what there's being done to kids right now. And a class action lawsuit feels like, it's like, why are we going to go through a civil situation? For what? To get money from these people, to get told to, oh yeah, sign this NDA so you really stop talking. And no, we don't give an F about their money. It's all blood money. It's disgusting. And we don't give an F about that. What we're asking for is for the actual facts to be confronted on their face. And, with a class action, it's like, all you get is a civil attorney that's going to try and get you money. I mean, that's what I understand. But, I might be not understanding the system, but how I understand it is like that. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll leave it in the air, you guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Amy. Very true. Thank you. Hey, Serge, this is so inhuman. Thank you, Deirdre. We really do appreciate seeing us, and just holding space it's truly all that any survivor needs. What's up, on the go? Good to see you. I love it. All right, you guys. Well, we're going to continue covering the subject and many other angles that are relating in this situation. If you have any questions for the replay crew, feel free to leave it for us. And I will see you guys all extremely soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.